So for some students, they're trying to find a graph for their project in order to achieve a level 4. And it sometimes depends on your topic how you're going to get a graph that tells us information really helpful for our project. So in my case, I did a search for COVID Toronto numbers in June. I chose this because I want it to be about COVID. I definitely want it to be specific to Toronto if possible. I want the word numbers because that helps me see visually information, and since this is under images, I know numbers visually are usually shown through a graph. And I picked June so that I get more recent information. Now, I wasn't able to actually find a great graph related to Toronto that was easy to see. There is one here about Toronto, but when I click on it, you'll see that it's actually really difficult to see, and it ended up actually not being about Toronto very much. It was just about Canada in general. This is also a really bad graph to use because look at how hard it is to read the numbers. It's not very clear. So instead, what I did was I kept looking for a few minutes and I saw this graph which caught my interest. And it shows us that as of June 2nd, this is how many deaths have happened per 100,000 people. And interestingly, Sweden has a higher death rate per 100,000 people than Canada. Now, why is this interesting? Because I have been reading the news. We know Sweden was one of the countries that decided not to do an entire closing down of the economy. They let everybody continue mostly for the most part business and try to just social distance during it, but they didn't do any lockdown or have people stay home. And as a result, they have a higher case of people infected with COVID than some other countries that had similar populations. They also found out in the article that actually their economy did not do as much better as they had hoped. They were still impacted by the rest of the world's economy being very poor right now, so they weren't able to achieve a lot of benefit, or they weren't able to really get ahead as much as they hoped they would. Now, I really like this article. I did take a look at it for fun because I'm nerdy and I like that. But I thought this is a really good point because Sweden was the example of a country that did not want to stop everything to stop COVID, and it didn't work 100%. It didn't work. So I like this graph. Now, if I'm trying to use this graph, you'll see that if I try to save the picture, it's going to try to save it as a whole entire web page. Okay, and I don't want a whole web page. So I'm going to teach you something really cool. If you have a Microsoft computer, if you click on your Microsoft window at the bottom here, and you write the word snipping tool, okay, S-I-N-I-P-P, looks like a scissor. Okay, this is one of my favorite tools on the computer. It lets you cut out any picture or any part of a website that you want and make it your own photo. So if I want this graph, what I could do here is I could actually just simply take that, and now I have that graph, and I can say edit, save. I'm going to save it as Sweden graph, and now I can go upload it to my story map. Okay. Another way I could have done this is if I go back to here, we see because this is an image here, I can get the link. Okay, link is copied, and hopefully this time it would work if I put it into a story map. Let's take a look. So I'm going to go back to my story map, and if I wanted to, I'm going to put this right at the beginning, and I'm going to try to do it with the link. Now, let's see if it works with the image. Nope. Okay, so I would have to upload it. So that's why the snipping tool is really helpful, because no matter what, you can always snip it, and then it becomes your own document. Okay, so because I saved it to my desktop, I'm going to look for it. I called it Sweden. I'm looking for S. There it is. Oh, okay. There we go. And then boom, it's in. I'm going to add it. And there's my awesome graph. Now, this would be a very important graph to give some sort of caption, which is just a fancy word for putting one sentence underneath that explains why I'm choosing this graph. Okay, I also made sure that this was from a credible site. I know the National Post is a newspaper. I can trust that they're not just making up information. So I made sure it wasn't from somebody's blog. It wasn't from a site that's just making up information. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my story map and I'm going to add a caption. So why do I think this is important? So this is an example. Social distancing is very important right now as COVID spreads. I could say Sweden is an example of a country that did not lock down, and as a result they have a higher death rate per 100,000 people than other countries like Canada. So what am I going to say? There we go. There. So there's my caption. Everything's done. It saves automatically. Now here's an example where I can try and see if it looks better if I put it this way. And I could do it this way, and I could say what are the challenges. In this case, I don't have any information here, but I could put down more challenges and put a paragraph here. Or if I don't like that format, I can bring it back to small and it goes back here. So you can play around with the formatting anytime you want, okay? And it saves automatically as long as you're on a story map, okay? Again, the last thing you would do, if you would make sure that you have the link copied, you're going to put photo or source. You can say photo or source, whatever, and then you're going to paste in the link, and that shows me that you've given credit to where this information came from. Okay, thank you so much.